Frank Words Weather Words is a production of The Reporter, Delaware County's leading newspaper. To subscribe or advertise, call 607-464-4009. This episode of Frank Words Weather Words is sponsored by Klinger Power Sports on West Street in Walton, your one-stop shop for outdoor recreational vehicles. Klinger services all recreational vehicles it sells. Stop in today to see how Klingers can help you enjoy the great outdoors in comfort and in style.
Good day. And the reason I say that is some of you might see me in the morning, some might see me at lunchtime, some might wait till you get home from work and see me in the evening. So sometime during the day, you'll see me. So good day. You know, we've had some very strange things happen since the last time you saw me. The last time you either read or saw me, I said the snow would disappear on Friday. Guess what? It did. Okay, we had a light wind blowing, we got to 40 degrees, and by late afternoon, the snow was gone. Then things started to cloud up, and people were listening to things saying something bad was coming. Well, they were right. It didn't start raining here until about 5:30 or so on Saturday morning. Normally when dawn gets here, you know, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Well, it got darker and darker and darker. Believe it or not, by 7:45 in the morning, the sensor for my Christmas light said it's evening time and turned them all on. 3 seconds later, right across from me where the woods live, theirs came on too. And it poured. The wind also picked up. And what happened in the morning, we had a gust of about 25 to 30 miles an hour. Then that sort of cleared away about 10:30. We did get to 57 degrees that day. That was Saturday. Late afternoon, the wind started to pick up again. And sometime after dark, we got hit with a second blast of winds and rain. When you woke up on Sunday morning, there were actually a few ice crystals and things on the ground because we actually went below freezing that night. And the winds continued. We stepped out on Sunday morning. And by the way, on Sunday, we did get to about 42, 43 degrees. Okay, that was kind of nice, but the wind was still there. On my hill here in the back, it sounded like a freight train was still going across the top of the hills. It was still roaring up there. And my mind says, somebody's lost their power. And that's true. Central and southern New York, some people did lose their power. And after that all finished, you know what? Yesterday the sun came out and it looked real nice. We did get again to about 43 degrees. Last night, down to about 26. But right now as I'm talking to you, we're already at about 33. We're going to get to mid-40s today. Believe it or not, tomorrow, upper 40s. Wednesday, maybe 50. On Thursday, mid-50s. Unfortunately with that, Wednesday and Thursday, it's going to rain all over us again. And then it'll go back down during the day to be normal temperatures, which will be mid to upper 30s. And then we're going to have a mix of something on Saturday. Okay, this up, down, bare ground. I mean, we're now on the 13th of December, and normally there's snow here. Well, not yet. And the outlook is probably a green Christmas here too. So they're extending it out about 10 to 12 days. They're saying it's going to be warm, probably, believe it or not, till about the end of December. So above average. This will be a warm month as opposed to last month. The thing about that is people say, oh, it's going to be that mild winter. Those that have been here for a few winters, we had a snowless November and December not too many winters ago. And then in January, February, and March, we had the entire winter's worth of snow in those 3 months, and all we did was shovel. And people started hating snow. So you know what? Don't give up on winter yet. It is going to get cold. It's probably better it does, because believe it or not, the fruit trees need a resting period. They need it to go below freezing and stay cold. And then you get buds and things coming out in the spring. You don't get that cool period during the winter, you may not have much of anything next spring. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Now for those horrible 6 states that had those tornadoes. There's no good time to have a tornado. I mean, believe it or not, we had 3 tornado warnings during this year here, which is kind of unusual. But if it turns out to be the fact, and they're still going to be investigating this for a number of weeks, actually a number of days probably for this one. One tornado at the moment stayed on the ground for 227 miles. That's like having a tornado touch down in New York City and damaging everything from New York City up past Binghamton and destroying whatever it touches in between, okay? That's to give you some idea of what kind of an area we're talking about. That's a lot of damage. If you saw the things on TV, you look at these communities and you just shake your head like, where do you even begin? We've had floods here. We've had blizzards here. We've never had anything like that, and I hope we never do. Because in a few seconds of time, and that's all it takes to do that damage, look what happened. And it's going to take a long time to fix that. But now back to your little science thing for today. Winter weather for me is actually a problem. Because during the summertime, this is in my precipitation collector. This is on top of it. It rains. Pardon me for a minute while I get my rain ruler. It's right over here. And all I have to do during spring, summer, and early fall is you come out here, you take this off, you stick the wonderful rain ruler in here. And by the way, this is 8 inches wide going down to this brass tube. That allows me to get readings down to 1/100th of an inch. If it's not 1/100th of an inch, it's called a trace. But all you have to do here is you pick, you read it, you dump it, you put it back in, and you're ready to go for the next day. Well, right now, all of this is in my house. This has to stay open because if it snows on this, it can't get in there. So it has to stay open. So what that means is I have to come out here and this whole thing has to go into my kitchen where it sits in my sink in some warm water to thaw everything that's in there. I also have to get my snow ruler. Now, back over here for 1 minute or two. Here's a little funniness with all this. You're supposed to have a snowboard, but it's a piece of plywood level so you can take a reading. And it can't be near trees and it can't be near a building. A couple years ago, a friend of mine decided he was going to make me a goat stand. However, he looked up on the computer and got one for a midget goat. One of those little tiny things, and made that, which was totally useless for me to do anything with my goat. It had to be 2 feet higher and a whole lot longer, but it made an excellent snowboard because there it is. So you come out and you take a reading. Now, when I first started doing this with the Weather Service, this was my snow ruler. And it's all bent and it's damaged. And about the 3rd year I was here, the Weather Service showed up and goes, "We have a Christmas present for you. Here's your new snow ruler." Okay, first of all, much more substantially built, much more durable, because you got to plunge this down into the ground, which I'll talk about in a minute, to get ground readings for it also. Of course, at that year they said, "Oh, we also can't pay you anymore." Now, first of all, let me tell you what the payment was. It was 6 cents a day. So by the end of the month, you had enough for a cup of coffee. But they say we've had budget cuts, and each one of these cost $87 to make. There are 6,000 weather observers across the United States. Everyone had to get one. So you take 87 times 6,000, you suddenly realize the Weather Service had to pour out millions to give everybody their snow ruler, okay? But what happens after I take the reading here, and then I have to clear that all off, I have to go to 3 places on my property with this, plunge it to the ground to take a reading, and then average them together. That's because some places might have some wind, some might be in tall grass, and you might say, who cares? It's on the ground. Well, you care and I care, because if it suddenly warms up, all that turns to liquid. And what that really tells the Weather Service is how much liquid is sitting in that snow that I'm taking all these readings of as the winter goes on. Not that I want to see this ever again either, but in 1996, when we had our first flood here, well, that's not the first one, but the first one I was here for, it got cold and we had to wade through snow for Halloween. And it never warmed up the whole entire winter until into January. So the whole entire winter's worth of snow was sitting on the ground. I mean, I was sticking this in, marking where it was, pulling it up, doing it again, because believe it or not, before that storm came up that gave us our flood, we had 9 inches worth of precipitation sitting in that snow on the ground. That storm came up and dumped another 3.2 inches on top of all of that. The river and our brooks never stood a chance. The only good thing about it was it took 2 days for it to melt it all. That's a little different than the 2006 flood, where it was all rain almost all at once, and you saw what happened to that one too. Okay? But the snow reading on the ground is an important thing. All we have to do, and I hope, is every time spring gets here, a slow warm up so it melts slowly. Because otherwise you're into the mud season, which can last for weeks and weeks and weeks and track up your house and everything else and keep farmers from getting out in their fields. So believe it or not, it's all important. But you put all that together in a daily forecast for me, and it probably adds another 25 minutes to my morning routine just to get the weather done. Do I enjoy it? I wouldn't have been doing this for 25 years if it wasn't. And although I don't think I'll beat Arthur Bennett's record because he did it for 50-something years, I'll have to live to be 97. But you know what? You never know. So anyway, warm up this week. Maybe on Saturday, a mix of rain and snow. And then warm up the week after that for the holiday that's up and coming. So I do believe, unless something strange happens, a green Christmas is in our forecast. So have a real good time until I talk to you again. And we'll take it from there.
Shop Klinger Power Sports on West Street in Walton today.